So next, we'll move to the element of ESG, environmental, social, and governance impact on the e-commerce segment or the e-commerce businesses. What's their responsibilities, and in general responsibilities we think for modern businesses in regards to ESG. Marian, Stephen, if you can go next on that. I guess Brexit is one which has impacted on the governmental front many things, how we trade and look at things. So Stephen, if you could go next, please. Thanks.
Sorry. Yeah, I think, yeah, absolutely. I think it's becoming more to the forefront of consumers' minds when they're shopping online. I think, it touches across a couple of different areas. I think obviously Brexit is a very key one. I think certainly at the back of COVID across the UK market, and I would envisage that this is probably the same for the rest of the world, there will be more of a mindfulness to shop locally or shop within the UK. And I think, being able to shop with your country's retailers or country's outlets is going to be more of the forefront of consumers' minds. I think also as well around product sourcing as well. So where are the raw products actually being derived from? What does the supply chain look like? And also as well, what does the packaging look like from an environmental perspective? And even I know, Amazon, dare I say, are still guilty of doing it, where you order a pen and there's a box comes turned up that looks like a washing machine's being delivered. But I think consumers are getting a hell of a lot more mindful of that around the overall environmental impacts around packaging and waste that comes from the Ecom channel. And certainly there's certain retailers out there whereby the actual product packaging is fully biodegradable, and it's very easy to recycle, and moving away from some of the core plastics and some of the types of plastics which are a lot harder to recycle and certainly put into your local household recycling bin. I think the last bit as well is more from an overall governance perspective as well, around how some of these particular e-com retailers are run and what kind of image do you portray out into the overall market. So where are you actually paying your tax? What are you doing around corporate social responsibility? And also how you are actually treating your employees as well. Are you actually paying a fair wage? Is your supply chain ethical? Have you actually gone through and audited your supply chain? And I think all of these elements are going to be really critical going forward in order to grow a successful online business.
Great, and some great points there. Yeah, I think naturally we've seen many people pointing at governments or big business to act first, but I think nowadays the responsibility lies with all of us, I suppose, no matter the size, because that's good for the government, it's good for society. So that's something I suppose is more important than ever before, to take their responsibility as individuals and business owners, employees, and so on.
Yeah, definitely.
Really. Zain, if you could share your perspective there too next, please.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think partnerships and collaborations are really, really key for e-commerce businesses to work on especially the environmental side of things, because you've got to look at things from, it's not just the manufacturing, the entire logistics process and everything else, to be able to pool resources and to be able to get your hands on the technology and to streamline everything that the bigger companies have access to, for everyone else is definitely going to be beneficial. I mean, it's not just about planting trees anymore. You have to be a little bit more open-minded. I mean, we plant trees as well, by the way, so I'm not against planting trees. It's just that there needs to be a slightly deeper thought process applied. I mean, Amazon's fleet has gone pretty much all electrical now, or they're heading that way. DPD are talking about being carbon neutral, which is fantastic. Last mile delivery has such a huge impact, especially on e-com delivery. So I mean, while awareness is at an all-time high, as Stephen mentioned, in terms of the negative impacts, I feel like it's not necessarily easy for all the consumers to actually do something about it. I mean, if you think back to way back when, I'm showing my age a little bit, when you used to get a glass of iron brew for that, and you give the glass bottle back and you get 20 pence back from the shop. And it reduced littering, it increased recycling, that sort of thing. But it made the consumer happy because they got 20 pence off their next bottle, but they were actually doing something about it. But it was something really easy for them to do something about it. It wasn't difficult. Didn't go out of their way. I think given how people are time poor, it's still important to be able to offer people sort of same day, next day delivery. I get that, but it would be really cool if someone had like an alternative service as well, saying if you need it same day, no problem. But if you're willing to wait, for example, up to within 7 days, so when we've got like a group delivery for your particular area, and then your zip code or whatever, and you'll get extra loyalty points, for example, and you can use that, whether it's in sort of an automated wallet, an online wallet, something like that, you can use them loyalty points build up to get something. I feel like that would be almost that whole gamification element of it. People would be more willing to try it. I mean, it's something that's probably a little bit different, and we're a little bit away from it. It's not something that's going to happen overnight, but I feel like that would be a really good thing to introduce to the whole online experience. In terms of governance and stuff, Brexit has been obviously quite difficult for everyone. We have actually opened up a new facility in the Netherlands last week, and we're expanding throughout Europe now as well, so to try and make that process easier. But it's incredibly difficult to, I think the one thing e-commerce brands need to understand is where they're going to be paying their taxes. I think, Stephen, you mentioned that it's such a key thing, because a lot of our customers are importing things from different countries but then selling them, they hold it in a hub in the UK but selling it into different countries. So is it really important for them to bring everything over into UK? So I think having that whole plan in place is super important.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot for sharing your insight there, Zain. And I love the idea of incentivizing people to recycle more and giving away points or a 20p discount. I'm surprised no one's done that yet. So guys, free idea there for you if you guys want to implement it. I don't know if Habu has copyrighted it yet.
No, not yet. I'll get back to you on that.
Interesting point on the tax side of things, the implication, especially post-Brexit. So as an accounting firm, Alexei, what are your thoughts in that remit as to British businesses initially being able to trade more or less seamlessly across Europe? Now post-Brexit, all the new challenges that are brought forward, what do you think in that context, how it's affected the businesses, and what are the opportunities still for them in that remit in regards to tax and managing the business across Europe?
Well, if we are talking about corporate tax, corporation tax, then like the businesses that we are servicing are not that big to start hiding their profits in the tax-free jurisdictions. And well, we are filing tax returns for them, so we know that all of them are basically paying the taxes in the UK. In terms of taxes, it became particularly difficult to sell in the EU. So currently, with Brexit and all the new changes coming in the EU market in terms of the VAT, and like one-stop shop VAT and a few others, it just creates a lot of confusion, right? So we see that a lot of the customers don't know what to do, if you need to register, if you don't need to register. A lot of the customers don't know like what exactly they need to, like what are the rules basically, right? And yeah, funny things, not even all the tax consultants know like what exactly is the route forward in terms of the EU taxes. So here we are obviously having the hand on the pulse of the changes in the industry. So we are updating all our databases and all our knowledge in terms of like what are the rules going to be from the 1st of July in EU, and yeah, hopefully we will be prepared for the 1st of July for all of the changes coming into the EU, so that we help the customers that we serve to guide them into how do they come back into European Union and start or continue selling there and knowing they're in the green.
Great, thanks for sharing that. I guess things, whenever they get difficult, it's never impossible, just new ways to find solutions, I suppose. That will be the key still. Marion, if you had any final remarks on in regards to ESG.
Yeah, I think that the guys have had it really well covered. The only thing I'd add is around data security. As businesses move online, you're handing a lot more consumer data. Just making sure you have the correct processes in place to safeguard that, and be really, really vigilant with GDPR and so on, that you are following those regulations. And yeah, having customer data security first.
Thanks. Yeah, definitely. I think data security, especially in an age where we're giving away data freely every 5 minutes, it seems like somebody wants my email address. So it's important to really be providing safe environments for people to protect their privacy, for sure. Next, we'll move on to why emerging markets are so important. So Alexei, you touched on it briefly in the presentation. If you can just expand on a few things you mentioned in the presentation earlier to start with, would be great.
Yeah, sure. So what we see is once the merchant sees the good growth, a good results in the UK, they start thinking about, okay, where do I go next? How do I expand internationally? And I'm pretty sure Air Wallets can let us know a lot of the stories how the businesses do it. So we see it on our end as well. And in most of the cases, the business owners think about entering the either EU or the US. So the US, because it's like the biggest market and the most interesting for everyone. The EU, it looks close enough where over the last few months it became not that close, but still kind of more familiar and still a big market to sell it. One thing that we see happening is the increase of the e-commerce share in emerging countries. So whenever the economy is growing, and whenever we see that the economy is growing, we see that the share of the e-commerce sellers is actually rising to the average level of the developed countries. So in this sense, I don't say that everyone should be selling in Russia or Indonesia or somewhere else, right? But at least maybe merchant should look into those countries, see if there is a good fit for the product they are selling. And if yes, then I would definitely go a little bit deeper in terms of understanding how the market is structured there, what are the payment providers that are working in there, what is the logistics that can be set up depending on where do you ship from, how do you ship to, again, Indonesia or Malaysia or Russia for that sake. Yeah, so there are quite a few things to think about and to set up, because obviously if you are entering Germany or France, there are hundreds of 3PL providers, there are hundreds of payment gateways that are accessible in there, and it seems easy, but then on the other hand, the easier it is, the more competition you will see there. And in the emerging market, they probably, for some of them and for some product groups, you will still see the possibility to be in the, well, not in the blue ocean, but at least with lower competition than you see in the developed markets.
Yeah, some great points there, because naturally, it's can be a little bit more challenging, but through challenges comes great opportunity. So definitely, it's worth looking at different territories. Not some of that not always easily kind of marketed or in other pieces of information people are sharing. Brilliant. Zain, as a European Enterprise Director, so what is your perspective as to the emerging markets and where there's opportunity for e-commerce sellers?
Yeah, I think Alexa hit the nail on the head, but in terms of the one thing I would definitely stress is that to really understand each market, so do your research before you expand into each market, because, for example, what Amazon means to us here is same day, next day delivery, doesn't necessarily mean the same in other countries. So I lived in Indonesia for a couple of years, and Amazon over there basically means international shipping charges and probably wait up to 10 days to get a package, so their perspective of what that is completely different to what I had when I moved there. So for me, it's really important to understand that particular the market that you're going to be going into. Similarly, I was in Ukraine last week. I downloaded Uber Eats before I got there, thinking I'd be okay, but Uber Eats, they're completely bombed because they were not able to get the contracts with your McDonald's and these sort of brands, and they had a local brand called Glovo there which does exactly the same thing, and they were able to secure all the contracts with all the biggest restaurants. So therefore, although Uber Eats is there, it had absolutely no impact on the market as it would have done here. So I think it's really important to understand the markets that you're going into and really see which platforms your customers are going to be using, and don't just think what works in this country necessarily is going to work in the next one.
Yeah, absolutely. I think every market is different, cultures are different, societies are different, but naturally commerce can be aligned. But it's important to definitely, as you guys said, keep a close eye on what makes that country work versus the other in regards to commerce. Marion, if you can share your thoughts next, please.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it'd be good to share a customer story. This is actually much more on the supplier side. So one of our clients is called Bubble Tea Club. And at the beginning of the pandemic, these take-home kits became so popular because obviously we were all looking for stuff to entertain ourselves outside of work, still being at home. And so they really saw exponential growth and were not set up to support the volume of demand that was coming through. And one of their suppliers, I think, was in Taiwan, which is where the home of bubble tea actually comes from, and it was really premium goods, and so they really used Airwallex as a platform to manage those FX payments to their supplier in the local market, and really make a lot of cost savings there. And I think in general, when you think about emerging markets, it doesn't necessarily need to just be expanding from a sales perspective, but it could also be how can you source your goods and materials in a cost-effective way or in an ethical way from different markets that might have premium products that you haven't actually explored before. So that's definitely something that I would highlight.
Brilliant. Yeah, a great point there. It's not just, I suppose, about growing somewhere. It's also resources that can be found to help businesses on the product front, quality front, cost front, and so on. Stephen, if you can add your closing remarks on this.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think everyone's probably touched across the key points, but I think the only additional point that I would just like to stress is really understanding the competition in that marketplace and where your own products and service can win. Because even if you do all of the work around, understanding the supply chain, how you're actually going to ship products out, how you're going to handle returns, etc., how are you actually going to differentiate yourself from some of the local offerings? And I think, Zane made a very good example around Uber Eats and as to where that hasn't actually taken off. And it probably, in hindsight, for them guys, they probably just didn't do the research up front around how you can actually take a model which works very successfully in other countries and try to passport that in. And it's really important to understand the nuances of customer behaviour and also the product and marketplace in order to set yourself up for success for any territory you go into. And obviously there's a lot of players that try and fail, and usually that is the reason of that they haven't been successful is because they haven't done the research up front.
Yeah, definitely some great points again there, because naturally it's quite appealing always to open up new territories, open new customer bases, but the initial research, the planning is the most fundamental and important thing for sure. Brilliant. Moving on to the next topic is a guide to online marketplaces, pros, cons, and key considerations. So the likes of Amazon, eBay, Etsy, and so on. What would you guys think? So let's start with Zane in regards to online marketplaces, pros, cons, and key considerations.
Sure. I mean, the biggest thing for me to look is integration capability. So from a company, we kind of offer free integrations to all platforms. We're integrated with loads already, all the major ones that you mentioned, plus more. But there's so many more that are popping up. I mean, I get introduced to, so whenever I'm having a sales call, they're all like, are you integrated with so and so? And I'm like, I've never even heard of that, but we can definitely work that patch in. It's not a problem. So the biggest thing for me to consider, I would say, is whether or not they've got the open API, whether they're able to integrate into whichever systems it is that you guys are using. In terms of pros, you definitely get a lot more exposure the more platforms you're on. You can reduce your marketing costs because you're you're open to very different markets, different people, and it creates a level of trust, in my opinion, because if you're only available on maybe one platform, it's like, oh, is this company really that reliable, especially if you're an emerging company. Whereas if you're out there on the major platforms, I feel like the customer will trust your brand a little bit more. So I think it's there's plenty of pros. In terms of cons, obviously there's the commission element on there, which depending on what your margins are that you've got to play with, and the biggest con for me would be like Amazon, for example. They have very, very high levels of service delivery that you have to hit. And as soon as, for example, if you don't necessarily hit them, it might be not your fault if you're using a fulfillment partner, or if you're using, it could be an external factor that's completely not down to yourself, but you're not hitting that same levels of service delivery. All of a sudden, Amazon have a very negative impact on your business, and that can cause you problems in the long run. So I think there's pros and cons.
Yeah, for sure. There's definitely different areas, different types of audiences that are in different environments, and the commission naturally is key as well. Stephen, if you can go next, please.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think Zane's covered most of the points there. I think, certainly for Around a Pro it does give you an immediate distribution out to a large customer base. What we tend to find at RMS is that customers fully understand the concepts around selling online, but they struggle around how they actually market their website and how do they actually drive traffic. So certainly going into a marketplace, you've immediately got that pop that your product is front and center. Certainly from a cons perspective, commission, and also you can get squeezed out very quickly on the marketplace. It's certainly one of the things that we find from speaking to customers, whereby to a certain extent, it can be a bit of a race to the bottom. That you've got your product there, it's doing really well one day, and then you find out that someone's launched a similar product or the same product, but it's 50p cheaper or £1 cheaper, etc. And that really erodes in. So certainly we see that the marketplaces are a very good vehicle in order for SMEs to sell their products. There's also as well, obviously, traditional Amazon, which most of the customers that we speak to don't really like Amazon, just for the simple fact the amount of commission that they give away. But we are actually seeing that there's quite a lot of a rise of more local marketplaces around things like not on the high street or down the high street, which are really set up to support SMEs selling their products, but doing it without taking a large commission share. And it's more around ethical supply chain, ethical selling, etc. So really it's around weighing up the pros and cons. And as Zane said as well, it's really important to get your products out there, but it's also important as well to have a plan B, shall we say, and not put all of your eggs in one basket around pushing the products all onto one marketplace.
Yeah, and definitely, I think, as you guys mentioned, key to have diversification in terms of platforms, so access to different markets. And if one stops working, then at least there's another few marketplaces that can still yield some sales. Alexei, if you can share your perspective there in regards to marketplaces, pros and cons, and what Osome standpoint is on that.
I don't think I will add any additional valuable points in addition to what we've touched upon in the beginning. So just to remind you, half of the internet searches for shopping start now with Amazon. So you can do whatever you want in terms of marketing your own website, but half of the people will go to Amazon to search for something. So that's one thing to consider. One thing in addition to that, to add to what Stephen said, we actually see a rise of very, very localized marketplaces. So we have one of our clients who is building the marketplace for local suppliers only. So they partner with the distilleries in Scotland, with the farms in Cotswolds, and they are basically putting their products on their own marketplace, thus creating the competition to Amazon and the like. So that is one thing to consider.
Yeah, for sure. Some good points there. And then finally, Marion, if you have any other closing remarks.
I think it's been really well covered. Obviously, if you choose to go against having a marketplace, I think obviously we've covered the importance of figuring out your distribution and branding. but also thinking about that conversion piece. So once the customer does actually find your site, is it a really, really seamless process to check out? How have you set that up? Is it compatible with the likes of the marketplaces? Because if that's clunky from a customer's perspective, and it takes them a long time, there's no guest checkout feature, for example, it takes them a long time to complete their details, they're going to bounce. And so if you do choose to go it alone and keep the commission and do the distribution yourself, make sure you have the end-to-end piece figured out as well.
Yeah, definitely. It's looking at the full picture, I suppose, is key. As always. So moving on to the final topic, guys, we've got Q&A coming up, so we'll endeavor to answer as many of the questions you have posted. So the final topic is social selling and the emergence of influencer live streams. So Marion, again, if you could mention a few things on that topic would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. So I obviously work in marketing, and I'm particularly passionate about this space. And I'm sure pretty much everyone here would have experienced actually buying something on a social media channel themselves. Perhaps it didn't go so well for you. Perhaps you had a bad experience and it put you off forever, or perhaps you had a really great experience. And I think that we will continue to see more and more of this moving forwards. We've already talked about live streaming today. That's a huge trend that will come very soon to here. And then additionally, influencer marketing, it's been around for so long, but one of our newer clients was actually talking to me the other day and explaining that it doesn't have to be about these big celebrity brands where you need a huge budget to invest in them promoting your product. There are actually some startup agencies around that are working with what we call small scale influencers. So they could be people with very, very small followings, but they are highly influential. And so they don't cost a lot to work with, and they'll promote your product on your behalf. And that's a really successful way of getting in front of a highly targeted audience at low cost. So think a bit creatively, be aware that influencer marketing has been around for a long time, but there are ways that it is evolving and that you can definitely tap into for your business.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot for that. So let's move into the Q&A. Firstly, thanks a lot, everyone, for some great insights into these various topics. The recording for this, guys, will be sent to yourselves as well, so you can replay it and watch it again. And next, so let's move into some of the questions. So I think there's a question from Andy Fee for Marion in regards to Amazon and Airwallex. So I think Andy's asking, is Airwallex recognized by Amazon as a payment provider? I think is what he's referring to.
Yes, we are, absolutely. I think the term is PSP. And then we can also connect to your Amazon platform. So if you're an Amazon seller, you can connect to our global accounts. If you have operations internationally, so for example, you have an Amazon US collections account, then you can create a USD Airwallex local currency account and collect the funds into there, and then choose when you want to convert those to GBP. So definitely reach out to us afterwards to get more information, and we can provide follow-up.
Sure, thanks for that, Marion. Next, we'll go to Daphne M. Is there a top ecom platform for handling multiple warehouses? Maybe Zane, maybe you could take that. I'm not sure actually, or not, but I'm assuming it might be.
I'm not sure, to be honest. So we have our own network of warehouses, but so I'm not 100% sure which is the best platform for multiple warehouses. I'm afraid. Sorry.
Well, I guess you'll say Habu now.
Well, yeah. If I'm biased, yep. You told me not to be biased, school.
No, for sure. I think there are lots of different fulfillment companies out there, and Habu is definitely one of the best ones out there for sure. Cool. So we've got another question from Sylvia. Hi all, I have a question. Since May, their sales have dropped 60% due to pandemic and holidays. They currently sell on eBay and Etsy, and only starting to now sell on Amazon. Is there any advice that can be given to promote their current business? Stephen, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. And certainly this is a challenge that we see across a lot of our customer base around how you can actually drive more traffic. I think there's a lot of things that you can do without costing a lot of money. The traditional way to advertise is spending on pay-per-click advertising with Google, which can be incredibly expensive, and you can burn a lot of cash very quickly. I think there's certain things that you can do, certainly on social media, around likes of your products, etc., running some competitions, free giveaways, etc. There's certain things that you can do around search engine optimization within your local area, which are very straightforward to do, which will help put your website up the relevant rankings. I think Trustpilot reviews and Google reviews, etc., are also really important, and start to get your customer base to act as your ambassadors out and about, should we say. Certainly we see that a lot of our successful customers, where they've managed to crack that around being able to give away competitions, doing it very cost effectively on social media, likes and shares, etc., offering very good Google reviews as well, and encouraging customers to leave Google reviews. You can really generate a stack of organic business and organic traffic going to your website.
Great. Yeah, definitely. I think it's always trying new things and trying different elements and building that authenticity through reviews and other mediums. So we've got, where was it? Sorry, I think, let me just scroll through. Is any experiences on shipping across Europe? Zane, maybe you could share something around that, of UK sellers perhaps shipping across Europe, what that looks like, how can that be simplified?
Yeah, sure. I mean, there was a period when Brexit first was officially announced, and it was going on for ages. When it actually officially happened, there was a period where it became incredibly difficult because, for example, DPD were not taking anything into Europe. But I feel like it has eased up a little bit. So I'm happy to have a chat with Gemma after this webinar to see what particular experience she's had or what she's finding difficult, because our things that definitely have smoothed out now. We're pretty much back up to normal in terms of shipping into Europe and beyond.
Great. Yeah, brilliant. So another question we had, one was before the event, was in regards to selling across Europe versus selling across US. What kind of, I guess, implications there may be when it comes to opening up either or? Which one would one recommend? Pros and cons of that. Alexia, do you want to take that as to EU, setting up across in EU or US?
Well, for us, as like I can give you a perspective from the accounting company, from the perspective of admin that you got to do. Definitely, EU becomes easier to sell in compared to the US, with the different rules in different states, etc., etc. While the US is obviously a bigger market. So, like for us, from the accounting standpoint of view, we will support you wherever you want to sell, right? So if it's the US, we will guide you through the process in there. If it's the EU, we will help you out in there as well.
Sure, sounds good. And then Marion, how does Airwallex kind of help out? Was it selling across Europe, America?
Yeah, we actually see trade routes very commonly across both of them, and also into Asia, where we have very strong roots. And I think, as a e-commerce business, the way I would think about which market to expand to is really about starting. I think this came up earlier, perhaps with Stephen, but really think about where your customer is, what problem you're trying to solve with your products, and then whether or not you can match that to the market. So if you do your research, actually it was Zane with Uber Eats, if you do your research and make sure that there is actually a need in that market that you're looking to expand to, that might help answer the question for you. But ultimately, if you're really looking to supercharge growth, there's a much bigger market available in the US. So it might be that your suppliers are coming from the EU and you're actually making your sales to customers in the US. So yes, weigh up that product market fit versus the actual audience potential.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot for that. Guys, if you have any other questions, please feel free to send. Just conscious of time, we are nearing an end, as the guys have delivered lots of great information. Hopefully you guys have all liked it. And then everyone who has attended will be receiving special offers from all of us, all the partners involved, including from Osome, free 1 month free for the accounting services, retail merchant services. There will be special rates perhaps that we can share with you. And then from Habu and Airwallex, we'll be sharing other partner related offers to hopefully beyond just the content. If you guys are in the market for different services, we'll be sharing special offers with everyone. And other than that, thank you to all the guests, the speakers, the attendees, Thanks a lot for everyone for making the time. Thank you, Marion, Zain, Stephen, and Alexei for your insightful tips, guidances, viewpoints. Hopefully, to the audience, they've enjoyed it as much as I have. Hopefully, if not, you can also share it if you like to so much with other people. We'll be sharing the video post-event. And yeah, wishing everyone a great end of the month, a great long weekend, and a good day ahead.